Thanks, everyone. I know it's difficult after lunch to come back into these things, so it's quite a topic that we've got up there. There's a lot of letters and a lot of things to get through. So what I thought I'd do is quite a skill set up here, different skill sets in and around this. So we're going to get everyone to just introduce themselves, give you guys a little bit of a background of their skill sets, what they're all about. So Frederick, we'll start with you. If you can start, just a bit of a background.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Frederick, Vice President for Jumio in APAC. So a little bit about our company. We are a global service provider for online identity checks. So for online onboarding, your users will have got the proof that they are who they say they are. For KYC, AML requirements. So online identity, of course, involves not only understanding the facial biometrics of the user, the identity document that he supplies, but also the email checks, valid phone numbers, valid addresses. So in totality, we have also the biggest fraud database behind a lot of our services. So welcome any questions around these. I'll have my counterparts now introduce themselves.
Thank you very much, Frederick. My name's Nicholas Hill, Nick Hill. I've been in the online gaming space for, way too many years, probably around about 23. I run and operate a small consultancy business now called Premier Chain, which gets involved in sort of progressive technologies. One of those technologies is blockchain and DLT, and how we can use that in this sort of digital environment for cashless casinos, as well as compliance, AML, KYC, and other topics that we can focus on, including CRM. So there's as Chris said, there's a wealth of knowledge up here, and we've got a broad subject to cover. So I'll hand over to my colleague Simon over here.
Hi guys, I'm Simon Lidsen. I am the co-founder and the CEO of a company called Fast Track. Not sure how many people have heard about Fast Track over here. We are expanding quite quickly, so I think you will know about us hopefully soon. What we do, like beyond anything else, is that we are helping operators in particular through this AI-led growth and how you can combine data and how you can activate your data, and in particular around the player engagement ecosystem. So we have, through the course of the last 8 years we've been around, we work with about 200 operators across the world. And what we have done is develop one platform, which is a CRM platform, which we call Fast Track CRM. And then in the pursuit of digitalization and AI-led growth, something that was a very neighboring area, which we started looking at very closely, was a risk element aspect as well. You can call it almost like a complementary piece to what Jumio is doing over here from a verification perspective. We started looking at gameplay risks. So we tested more than 14,000 slots and documented essentially the intrinsics of all of those different slots. And then we have built a platform now that is processing gameplay in real time in order to identify if you have any abuse happening. Very passionate about anything that has to do with scalability, digitalization, and this topic is super exciting. I think it's going to be a great panel. So that's a little bit about me. So I'm handing over here.
Thanks, Tom. My name's Andy Karazontis. I'm the CEO of TrafGen. Good to see a lot of faces here, including some clients. We are a patron, staff, and property management system. We are all over Asia and Australia and New Zealand, and have been in the market for some time. I've been for exactly the same number of years in this industry as you have, 23 years. And really excited to see what this panel can deliver, talking about something that isn't quite there yet, but could have a profound effect on the industry.
Yeah, it's a good point, Andy. I think what I'd like to start with, so we've got integrating a CRM, AML, KYC, RG, but the sort of key is through cashless. So I'd like to get each of the panellists to tell me what they see as cashless, because it's a wide topic, right? There's been cashless around a long time in many different markets. I'd just be curious to understand from each of the panellists what they see cashless as.
Well, if I can kick off with that, the way that I see cashless is enabling a player to play in a land-based environment with interacting with a slot machine, an EGM, or a table game without actually putting any physical cash down. So, this is then devised, or the capability comes from having or creating a wallet on a mobile device. And you fund that wallet with a currency. The currency can then be exchanged into sort of like a digital currency, which would be transacted throughout the casino. But this wallet not only works in the land-based environment, but can also work in the online environment. So you start to create a true omni-channel scenario, an omni-channel situation or solution, so that the player can play both physically in a casino environment and also go at home and play at leisure in their own comfort of their own front room. At the same time, because you've attached a funding account, which could be a bank account, which could be another wallet, to actually fund this digitized wallet, you're starting to pick up the KYC information. You're starting to build up a customer profile so that you can start to then interact with the player in a positive way to educate them in gameplay, to protect them responsibly, because as we know, there's certain jurisdictions and countries have started to bring out rules and regulations about how long you can actually play at a slot machine or a table game. So that's how I see the cashless casino, or this cashless environment evolving over time. All the various components are there. It's now just a case of putting them all together and delivering those to the operators and the regulators out there in the marketplace. That's the way I see it.
All right, anyone else got any other comments in and around that? That was a pretty comprehensive answer. Frederick?
Yeah, so I think cashless is definitely a very big theme for the event today. Going cashless with a digital wallet, it is no stranger in the Philippines, because the transactions today are moving into mobile phones, and the day-to-day purchases of items and purchases online are so much more efficient, so much more automated. If we're going to take gaming online, then a cashless environment, a digital wallet, becomes fundamental. Right. So I think this trend will be of huge interest for gaming in Asia because of the potential it lies. With this morning's presentation by the CEO of Parkour, policies are going to be more flexible and open, like towards supporting online account opening. So I bring up this because the digital wallet is great for transaction, but the regulations behind who owns the wallet becomes important work to do. So the KYC comes in where you have to prove that the owner of the digital wallet is who he says he is. You've got to check his identity, his background, he must be screened, as well as across different blacklists, or whether are there syndicates operating behind a lot of these maybe fake wallet accounts. And that would be of very big worry to regulators. Because as the regulators have mentioned, Philippines wants to get out of the grey list at FedF regulations, and that is by creating a gold standard of online gaming platform for Asia. And that there's a lot to do with showing what platforms you have to put the whole system in place to be secured. Maximally to be able to deal with the basics of online identity theft, right? Which can just crumble the entire efforts that you're going to put in place. So I think that the technologies to ensure identity validity is no small feat, but a lot of attention and as well as effort has got to be put in this space.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think it's quite exciting, like sitting and talking about something that probably should have been done 15 years ago, in a way. Like we're talking about a very fundamental piece that is growing. Every other market, there is no one in here that is not using an application like Grab, or if you're like in the European landscape, you would use a Bolt, you would use a Glovo to order your food, or like use that. It's such a, we're all used to this means of doing it. So why hasn't it happened? Right? That's a good question to ask. And probably because everyone hasn't had an incentive to change this quickly enough. But I think that incentive is becoming a much stronger right now. I think everyone is becoming a little bit more open to the idea that, yeah, me as a player coming in, it's more convenient. I'm creating a more intuitive experience for the player by providing them by more means or another mean to use a sort of a digital accepted way of transacting at a casino. And that also opens up the possibility, if you think wide and you think big around how you can utilize this technology, it's brilliant. Because as an operator, you get a completely new landscape of things that you're able to do within your ecosystem. Not the least talking about what Nick said now around the omnichannel opportunity. I think it's 100% needed for a land-based operator to be successful to go online. Sure, you can open up an online casino. You can compete against that market just heads on, and you can do that with the means that are on. But then you're not really taking advantage that you have a land-based operation that you want to move online. That opportunity opens up with a cashless scenario, because if you are seamlessly be able to have one relationship with your customer across, or with your player across 2 different channels, it's going to create a higher player value. When I looked at player value back, and that was back in the Betsson days when I was back at Betsson Group, I looked at the multi-channel value of players, both between land-based, between sort of combining that with a desktop play, and at the time, mobile was new, so we looked at mobile as a separate one. And the player value that was engaging with you in multi-channel increased by hundreds of % on each channel that you started to activate. So there is no doubt in my mind that a player that is engaging with your brand, both online and land-based, is going to be worth a lot more to you as an operator than it is having one of those channels. And the convenience factor opens up a lot of stuff. And regulators, of course, everyone has to gain in this. There is much easier to have a sense of control and ensure that, you know, the license is followed and everyone is happy in this process, that RG measures, verification, AML, and all of these aspects are taken care of in the right way. Obviously, from a CRM perspective, now you're introducing a much more comprehensive landscape of providers that you have to work with. You're going into the digital world. There's just so much more from RG, KYC, and coming all together, obviously CRM becomes a very important piece of the operation to ensure that the communication and the customer journey throughout that experience is also seamless, that you get the information and the access in the right way. But I just wanted to sort of, recapping on that, like we are talking about something that probably should have happened a long time ago. So I'm really glad that we're having this conversation now. It's really great.
And I think also it should have happened a long time ago, but we need to be cognizant of the fact, the nature of the industry we work in. And we're constrained in ways that other industries aren't. I mean, not all of them, obviously, there are plenty that have constraints. And I think that, so why haven't we reached a point when and we all support the idea, why haven't we reached it? Well, every casino operator in the world pretty much follows the regulation. If there's an absence of regulation, we're very cautious to go through without it being there, because it can, if you do something without regulatory approval, even if they haven't even considered it, you could be making a problem for yourself for the future. So I think people are quite hesitant about that. The other thing is we need to be another reason it hasn't gone forward really quickly, I think, is that we haven't identified a single operating mode. There's some people saying we have a closed wallet, some people saying we have a semi-closed wallet, some people saying we have an open wallet. And without having consensus as an industry, that's probably held us back. But these are all things that are fixable. These are really fixable. And I think that the decisions that we make as an industry now are going to be profound in how successful or otherwise, especially in the APAC region, how the e-wallets or cashless will work. Because there are a few things we need to get right. So obviously, get the regulators on side. We need to make sure that we've got the banking connections that we need to have within there, but also to look at some very specific gaming things. There's a wonderful study that came out of Taylor's University in Malaysia, I think last year. And they were looking at the reasons for that people were adopting cashless and people were not adopting cashless. And the top 3 things were an easy-to-use user interface, a promotional incentive, and then a product they could understand. And the most important reason for adopting it as a patron, as a player, as a user, was not convenience. It was not familiarity. It was not a Gen Z thing because I use this and other things. The most important reason for adopting cashless was promotional incentive. Earning points, earning those kind of things. And I think that this is an opportunity where we are in our industries to start to think about that and to move beyond a utilitarian view, you know, why this makes things seamless, why this increases visibility, and to start to think about how do we get this into the hands of users. And the sad reality is that if we put aside the RG issues about people not knowing how much they have in their wallet and not understanding the cash value, is that we need to be incentivizing them to do it.
No, I think I'll just jump in there because I think there's a lot of discussion just being had, right? And I think that one of the keys to the discussion having, Frederick, you brought it up, was regulation, right? So I think we're sitting here in the Philippines, to me, having working all throughout Asia at different levels. You know, the Philippines has probably one of the most dynamic regulatory environments at the moment on a number of levels. So they're very open. They're trying to work with the industry, operators, suppliers to ensure that regulatory environment is effective, because there's a lot of regulations that can come in Australia. Being Australian myself, Australia is going through a regulatory process in and around cashless particularly, which is, severe, and it's affecting operators, it's affecting players, and I don't think the regulator has really approached that cashless opportunity, and it's exciting. I think we all agree it's exciting, but there's a journey to be taken. I haven't done it well. Here in the Philippines, I think it is being approached in the right manner, and there is truly a unique opportunity because of the omni-channel opportunity where land-based is into online and it's all there. There aren't many markets that you can do that. So I think, there's a lot of activity in the Philippines. It's a very exciting market. From the panel's experience, is there any other markets that the Philippines could learn from? Because I feel like they're certainly positioning themselves from a regulatory point of view to be leading the market and really showing potential other markets the way to go.
I just cut in and say a few words on this, because it's I think you're right, okay, and I think everything that you said around the promotional incentive to get on board with it makes sense. Like when you think about the adoption of a technology like this, you have to talk about timing, and obviously that is contradictory to something that we should have had a long time ago. But the technology has been there for a long time. I think there has been an opportunity for a very long time. But when you look at the adoption in the general society, I was part of the innovation team with operators in the past, looking at VR technology, right? And looking at how live casino could be streamed into VR technology. Listen, casino cannot an operator cannot solve the adoption of a new technology. It doesn't work like that. The general society has to adopt a new technology, and then we can leverage it. And now the timing is much better to have these conversations than they were, even though we could have done it earlier, of course. But I think it's
I think adoption, even through COVID, there was a lot more technology adopted through COVID by people sort of being stuck and having to be forced into some technology in different areas. So I think you're right.
Exactly. But coming on to your point that you started raising as well, first of all, I think the incentive aspect, if you're converting one's behavior to another, then I think there is an incentive that is very, very natural that you introduce, because you're going to be introduced to a new experience you never tried before. But you have a whole new audience that is looking into the casinos, who's not actually going to the casinos right now at all, right? And that's the younger generation. And this is another barrier. Me and Nick sat and discussed this over dinner the other night, that's just an entirely other aspect of this, which is that you will attract an entirely new audience through this as well, because they're not used to cash. We don't have cash in the same way as a younger generation, if you're looking at kind of the 25-year-olds or whatnot, right? But the environment could still be entertaining for anyone, right? It's just, but the hurdles becomes less, and there are so many other opportunities. The timing is here right now.
I think you're right about the hurdles. I don't think that it's fair to say that having cashless will attract a young generation by itself. They'll be attracted by the gaming product.
The content.
It's all about the gaming product, because it is a gaming product. But you are absolutely right in what you said, and I think you said it removes a hurdle. And that's the most important part. But we need to see it at all times as being a supporting technology of the gaming product. And what it can do is make that gaming product fantastic, much easier, much quicker. If we put aside the Australian experience, which has really slowed it down, it's made it really hard work. I think you're right, the Philippines is taking a really encouraging view. Is there any way of doing it better?
From my experience, I don't think so. I think, the Philippines market is truly one of the most dynamic markets in the world at the moment.
If I can add on that, the regulatory aspect of it is that technology is moving so swiftly and so quickly that the regulators just simply can't keep up. And by the time that they've sort of regulated for a certain jurisdiction, like you take the UKGC, for example, technology has moved on. So their rules and regulations that they're bringing out are antiquated by the time they've actually started to implement them. So, the industry has to almost sort of self-regulate to educate this is just my opinion, to educate the regulator into this is what we're doing to protect for your AML aspects, for player protection, for the responsible gaming aspects, the KYC aspects. This is what we're doing because the regulator is constantly playing catch up. And Chris, you're very correct in what you're saying. The Philippines is more proactive at this moment in time, especially in this region. But they are more proactive by a long shot than some of the others.
Yeah, I think maybe standing on the paranoid side of the conversation as well. I think technology definitely enabled cashless, enabled automation, efficiency, scalability, borderless business opportunities. But this also means that there are the no do-gooders. The fraudsters, they know the technologies are available. And they will be very quick to pick up on loose ends, where they'll break the cake if you have it, right? So I think that the regulators already have a very difficult time catching up with technology developments. And industry and public-private conversations, data sharing across KYC, AML, different practices is so critical for policy formulation, so that they are at least keeping things where it is safe to operate within, where we see growth, and then of course growth exceeds the risk, right? But I would say that, of course, now that the Philippines is even more receptive towards supporting online gaming applicants, pay especially attention, right, to technology developments, the negative sides and the risks associated, with the operations, the security parts of it. I'm sure you have a lot of technology partners within your ecosystem. It is even more important now than ever before, right? Because the game field is just opened up so much.
So, being a market in the Philippines where you have land-based now crossing into online, do you guys see that as an advantage for the regulator because they've got best of both worlds? Online's a very different world to land-based. They develop differently, the product's different sort of engagement. The way they engage with customers is very different to land-based. The fact that they're starting to cross over and the land-based operators are moving into online, is that an advantage, or does it make it more complicated for regulators to get to that ultimate cashless goal?
Is it going to make it more complicated for them? I think at the end of the day, they have to embrace it. Here, you've got sort of a unique opportunity in that you've got a regulator that's also an operator. So, you look at PAGCOR. PAGCOR is looking to go online with Casino Filipino. So for them, as a regulator or as an operator, to embrace sort of like this digitisation of the wallet will help their business, not just in the land-based environment, but also online, because you're utilising exactly the same technology for the online gameplay as well as the land-based gameplay. And it goes back to what Simon was saying, in that you will start to educate and introduce the younger demographic to your online premises with content, with the wallet, with the use of digitisation. but also you might be able to then incentivize them to come into your premises for entertainment purposes or for, for gameplay, because it's another vehicle. It's not going to replace everything overnight, but it's another route to market. And so the regulators, they've got to get their heads around it at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like, I think in that, and everyone is right in that sense. You can't just introduce cashless and then suddenly you have another generation coming in the door. No, it has to be, but it's one of many things that would need to happen in order to attract the younger demographic, because you need to experiment and you need to be current in the technology advancements that are happening. But I was just thinking about, regulators doing this type of thing. We had a Swedish regulation happening a couple of years ago, and that actually introduced an enforcement on pay and play, for example, which was, that was for online, but it was a similar type of thing where a regulator actually enforced a certain type of
from a responsible gaming perspective.
There was a lot of that stuff as well. They got a lot of stuff wrong because they didn't collaborate with the operators in the matter when they were implementing it. That turned out to be incredibly important. If you look at regulatory license regimes in general that has implemented a successful regulation, it's been close collaboration between both operators and regulators and third parties, which has brought the best solutions into play, because then you have the consumer in mind and you have sort of the interest, all of the interests in mind when you're formulating it. But what I'm trying to say with the pay and play sort of implementation in Sweden was that from an aspect of rolling it out and getting a better experience for the customer by the end of the day, and something that was standardized, it worked out well. Like pay and play is loved in Sweden. That's something that the players really love playing that way. They just write the amount and they are connected to their bank directly and they just deposit, and it's very, very easy. So I think I support that way.
I think in terms of getting a successful rollout, if we put the regulator to one side, because we can't do it without the regulator, based on the last more than 10 years now, we've been using narrow AI, and obviously it's a hot topic now with generative AI. But I can see a parallel between the rollout of narrow AI in gaming, or casinos specifically, and also with cashless. And where we've seen AI succeed and where we've seen it fail has been primarily due to setting the success criteria. And I think there's a risk with cashless that if we don't do it right, we could make some of the mistakes of the past. And what I mean by that is by saying, okay, this is cashless. It can have a huge world of benefits. You've got all the acronyms up there. But why don't we focus on what it's really good at? Why don't we focus on whatever's important to you? Customer experience, on the KYC, on the focus on particular things that you know it will deliver on. Because there are some people in the media who are saying cashless is a panacea. It's a solution for so many different things. And people were doing that with AI back in the day. And the problem was, if you say it solves all problems, it doesn't solve any. And so it's going to be critical as users of the technology, and those like Nick who are actually building this stuff, we need to say it can do this and deliver success there and watch it grow out horizontally from there. And I think that's a really good path to get adoption.
I think small chunks.
Yes, small chunks.
What about banking? So, you've got regulation, you've got technology, the banking sort of industry, and how important is that in all of this equation in cashless?
Banking in respect of what? Funding your account?
Yeah, funding accounts, but just generally, are they going to be in the way? Are they going to be assisting?
It's another funding method. So, you've created your digital wallet, you've been incentivized to download an app and create that wallet. You are going to attach some form of funding account to that wallet. So whether or not that is your bank account or Gcash or WePay or whichever it is, or even cash over the counter, because you can walk up to the cage, give them $100 and they can upload your wallet. It's entirely, up to the premise or the operator on how they want to engage with that and fund that wallet. But once you've got the funds in the wallet, they're tokenized. So it's like double entry accounting using distributed ledger technology that tokenizes, so it's not attached to a coin, it's not attached to crypto per se, it is a double entry accounting method, so that you've got something that you can transact with in that closed loop environment, within that casino environment, that's linked into your CRM software, your loyalty and reward programs, and we were chatting about this, Chris, it goes into, what are they doing down in Australia at the moment? You've got, after 3 hours of consecutive gameplay, you have to take a play break.
Yeah.
How's that being managed?
Yeah.
Physically.
Yeah, well, it's very difficult. It's a difficult thing. Yeah, those kind of regulations are really tricky to handle, right? Like I know the players don't like it. I've been in plenty of casinos where they get the tap on the shoulder and it's not pleasant, right? Yeah. So there's, I think cashless and digital payment gateways are a great way to potentially protect people. But I think there's also, you've really got to think about how it gets implemented. And I also think, like, when we say cashless, doesn't mean we're going to remove cash completely out of the casinos.
Of course not.
It's just an option, another option to potentially bring in people who prefer to do that. But I think there's still got to be various ways to participate within, particularly land-based, including cash.
I just want to reinforce one of Nick's points here. I think, like, apart from the convenience that it creates and all of these different things, it's also a piece of technology that becomes very central in terms of a consumer behavior and something that allows other third parties to do innovation. We talked about, okay, of course, people need to actually go in and do things in these different areas, but right now it's actually incredibly difficult to engage in the land-based sort of side of the business because there are no commonality. There's only cash, but we don't touch it. There is no one else except the casino and the consumer that is actually, you go to the cage, you deposit, you get your chips. But in this particular case, like, whenever there becomes a central point of something which is holding information, it enables other companies and third parties to come in and say, I'm going to build something on top of this. I'm going to create another piece of convenience that I'm going to add on top of this service. And I'm going to create another business on top of that for me that is going to benefit everyone in this industry. And I think that's what cashless, why that is exciting, at least to me. I mean, I'm looking at, like, kind of what it could do from a digitalization perspective. Because even from a CRM, the things that I do every day, it is quite difficult for us to deliver value into the land-based as in the same aspect as we've done in online, because we have that standard. We have a standard that we can adhere to. There is something that every operator shares, and that's how we transact with the wallet. That's just, you can have different wallets. They're built differently, but they're still, like, the functionality going through. There is a bloodline. Slot game providers, everyone is connecting to that in the same way.
Gotcha. Okay, look, we're down to the last 5 minutes. Pretty big topic, so I think I might throw it out to the audience if there's any questions. If not, we can keep talking. But does anyone have any questions on anything in and around what we've discussed? Going once, going twice. I think we've baffled them, gentlemen. I think you guys have solved all the problems of cashless. Congratulations. Not a question in the house. All right, well, we've still got 5 minutes. So we know that the technology, we know it's exciting. We know that the technology's there and there's lots of advantages for everyone participating, opportunity to bring in new players, potentially opportunity to bring in new technologies. I think that's really an interesting point because, I mean, the gaming industry as a whole, particularly land-based, has very large companies supplying lots of great technology, but technology now, these days, there's a lot of other technology that can be applied over the top in conjunction, integrated, open source stuff that can all be integrated into, like your point, to really provide many, many different levels of benefit. So,
absolutely, and one of the most important things is that you do have a younger demographic coming in, and they're coming up from being console gamers. They're purchasing loot boxes, which is a form. How you look at it, it is a form of gambling. And they're coming into the real gambling environment. And we need to be able to put some sort of framework around that so that we can educate a younger demographic to gamble responsibly and stay within their entertainment zone rather than cash and burn, burn and churn out of that casino into the next one. So there's got to be some sort of format and way forward so that we can start to protect and educate a new demographic that are coming through, because we want more sustainable gameplay. We want these players to play with us for a longer period of time in a responsible manner. And I think this technology that's coming through, and we have all the components, and we just got to put them all together and deliver it to the respective audiences.
Well said. So I think, is there any last comments from any of the panellists? Anything that anyone else wants to make comment on before we wrap it up?
I think just a quick comment. I think that in the Philippines, you are in a great time to be really good, bringing up online gaming. With all your experiences in digital banks, in digital payment, digital wallets, I think that the landscape is set in terms of users' understanding of the digital wallets, and so much experiences you have learned from user experiences, onboarding. So I really think that the regulators have a lot of data to use in terms of designing what will work best for your online gaming industry.
Yeah, well said. I agree with that, totally. Anyone else got any other comments? No? Any other questions? If any questions before we wrap it up? No? Okay. I think that'll do us. Well done, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.